Welcome to our journey into the dark feminine. I invite you to get into a quiet place where you can hear, where you can focus upon what you are hearing. I'll make sure that this recording is logged in our group so you will be able to listen to it as often as you need. Within this course, it's been my pleasure to continue to lead you to deeper and deeper spaces within yourself. So this is always and ever about you. And I entitled this journey the journey of embodiment because I think we have enough things to know. I think we have enough topics to explore. I think that the moment we begin to embody knowledge, we stop being so hungry, so thirsty, so in a search because we become the things and the thing that we're looking for. So this is a journey of embodiment. That means I'm going to constantly ask you to feel. I'm going to constantly ask you to reflect and introspect. This is always and ever about you and for you. Tonight, we will look at the story of Inanna, which is one of my favorite goddesses, and her mythology that has to do with her descent into the underworld. Inanna is a Sumerian goddess. Now, when we talk about goddesses in this sense, what we're talking about is an archetype. An archetype is an energy blueprint that exists in all of us. So I'm not asking you to worship anything or to call upon anything. What I'm inviting you to is to recognize where this energy is within you. And so Inanna is an archetype. I'm going to read from a book that I've loved for many years, and I will post the link in our group in case you want to purchase it. And I'll begin reading now. Inanna's preparation for her descent to the underworld. Inanna is known as the Queen of Heaven. The Queen of all heaven and earth, Inanna, who in Babylon was known as Ishtar, was a young and powerful goddess in the Sumerian myths. The culture that birthed this goddess, Mesopotamia, is called the cradle of civilization. It lay at the meeting place of two great rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. This fertile crescent of the ancient world gave birth to agriculture, writing, astronomy, and early civilization. There was a vast temple system that oversaw land management, justice, sacred rites, and civil celebrations. Over all this presided the gods. And at one particular time, the queen of all the gods was Inanna or Ishtar. We know her stories from the clay tablets inscribed 4,000 years ago and discovered, pieced together, and translated only during the last century. The Inanna of these stories has defied and defeated gods much older than herself through a combination of wit, daring, and courage to assume great powers that were not originally hers. She is brave and beautiful, mistress of both the battlefield and the bedroom, presiding over the temples and the courts. The love poetry between Inanna and her consort Dumuzi is famous for its sensual and evocative explicitness. Their lovemaking is celebrated throughout the country as that which literally brings the animals to bear their young and the fields to ripen. Inanna is adored by all. She is the morning and the evening star that we call Venus, and she shares many attributes with that goddess. She is used to getting what she wants. The story of her encounter with the dark goddess is nearly complete in its preservation and can easily be read in its translations and interpretations. Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth, her stories and hymns from Sumer by Diane Wolkstein and Samuel Noah Kramer is accessible and beautifully translated, so you can still read these stories in their original form. Inanna gives several reasons for her journey into the underworld, most enigmatically that she hears it calling her. Another reason she gives is that she is going to take part in a funeral, the funeral rites of her sister's husband, the great bull of heaven. The third possible reason for her visit is that this trip is another journey for the covert accumulation of her powers. Previously, she has visited and tricked a number of gods, elder to and more powerful than herself, assuming their powers when she succeeds. She never mentions it, but it is possible that the Queen of Heaven and Earth has the domain of the underworld in her sights. Inanna has to go to the underworld. For that story to work, she has to go to reunite with her sister and bring together what has been split apart, the light and the dark halves of the Sumerian goddess. She must venture down there, for the dark goddess does not leave the underworld, as she holds the powers of both birth and death. She has no need to. It is others who must journey to her realm. Inanna knows that travelers to the underworld do not return. And although she seems to believe she will be exempt from this, she does make provisions for her rescue just in case. She assigns Ninshabur, her loyal retainer, to wait outside the first gate that leads into the underworld. If Inanna does not return in these days, in 3 days and nights, Ninshabur is to go for help. She is told to visit certain temples in a certain order to appeal directly to the gods there. Inanna is sure they will not let her remain forever in the underworld. When we look at goddess mythology, coming away from the spirituality of it and getting into the psychology of it, these gods and goddesses, these archetypes represents energies and powers that exist in the world. And specifically now we're talking about the divine feminine within us. So as you're listening to this story, I would like to invite you to imagine yourself as Inanna. So maybe I'm saying Inanna, but you put in your name, see yourself traveling through this. Inanna, remember, is the Queen of Heaven, and she has defeated and defied gods and assumed their powers. This is a brave soul. This is a strong soul. This is a very ambitious soul. And so she gives some reasons for why she may be going into the underworld, the funeral. But the reason she's visiting the underworld is the Queen of Heaven is meeting the queen of the underworld, the uniting of the light and the dark feminine into one, the reintegration of those. A lot of times we come into the divine feminine energy and we are in the light of it. But there's also a darkness that is required for us to be full. And so I'm inviting you to put yourself in this story and see what comes. I'm inviting you to allow your own inner darkness. I'm not asking you to regard any deity's darkness. This is your own inner world. This is your own underworld that we are going to visit. Inanna prepares for her journey by arraying herself in 7 garments of power and radiance. It has been pointed out before that this is not usually the way one arrives at a funeral. These garments and objects are not just symbols of her power, they are the actual powers themselves. Thus, her measuring rod and line made of lapis lazuli, which is a crystal, doesn't just show she is the one who measures out the fields and decides in the courts on matters of justice. It literally is the object that has the power of decision and justice. Her position of it grants her those powers. Thus, its loss would mean loss of those powers. That's an important point as we take this journey. So Inanna sets off into the underworld, much against the perceived wisdom and any understanding of how the universe works. After all, she's a goddess of heaven and earth, not the underworld. More specifically, not the underworld. And since she has a history of visiting other gods in order to wrestle their powers away from them or trick them into surrendering those powers, you might think her arrival would be looked upon dubiously. And I always worried that several of the gods she used to blithely entrusted her rescue would be the same ones who would leave her there to perish out of resentment. The Queen of Heavens and the Earth is undeniably arrogant. She's beaten many of them. She's taken her powers, and now she's going into the underworld, perhaps to do the same thing. We don't know. Either way, she's going. So now I invite you to close your eyes. Begin to soften your breathing. And we're going to put yourself in the space of Inanna. And if you find that difficult, then just hear the story for what it is. I heard it calling me, the underworld. Well, I heard a faint voice. I thought it came from there, from under my feet, from my sister, the dark Ereshkigal. All alone down in the underworld, she is mourning, surely, the death of her husband. I decided then to visit her, to pay a call. A difficult place, the underworld. No one I knew had ever gone there and returned. But I, as the Queen of Heaven and Earth, surely could travel there and return. She would not refuse me. I gathered up my regalia. She would meet me in all of my glory. I placed the crown upon my brow. It confirmed my queenship. About my throat, I placed the precious lapis beads and also the double strand of beads that fell to my breast. I bound about me my breastplate, famous on the battlefield and also in the bedroom. I have welcomed men to my spear and also into my arms. I wore the gold armband high on my arm, and in my hand, I carried lapis measuring rod and line, that which was the power of measuring out the land. About my body, I placed the robe of royalty. I took with me my most loyal Ninshaber. She and I set to watch at the first gate. If I do not return in 3 days and 3 nights, I told her, you must go for help. This she willingly agreed to. I told her which temples to travel to, which gods to appeal to, because surely they would not leave me, Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth, their precious jewel, to rot in the ground. I had every faith I would return one way or another. I rapped on the first gate. There was a long wait, a lot of scuttling around, and then slowly the first gate opened for me. I, Inanna, Queen of all Sumer, approached the underworld. Within yourself, begin to imagine that you step into an elevator inside of yourself. The doors close. There are no numbers because the elevator leads down. You begin to feel the drop of the elevator. It's not alarming. It's not fast. It's just whizzing down farther and farther within your own soul. And then it stops. The doors open and you approach the first gate. You are Inanna, the Queen of Heaven, entering the underworld. That is you. You don't know what you're going to find there, but you do know that there is some darkness there. Not darkness to be afraid of, darkness to rever, darkness to honor, darkness to hold, but darkness that would consume you alive if you let it. You knock on the first gate. The gate opens. The attendant holds his hand out for your crown. Your crown represents your authority, external validation. He wants it. For a minute, you tense because this is your authority. You go to protest. His only response is hush, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. You give him your crown and you continue to walk. You meet the second gate and the gate opens. The attendant holds his hand out for your beads. Your beads represent borrowed wisdom and intellect from the throat. You protest because this is the borrowed wisdom that you've always had. What would you do without it? He says, hush, Inanna, the ways of the underworld are perfect. And so you take off your beads. You proceed to a third gate. The attendant holds his hand out. By now you see the pattern. He wants your breastplate. Your breastplate represents protection and armor around your heart. You still protest. He puts his hand to his lips and he says, hush, Inanna, the ways of the underworld are perfect. You continue on to the fourth gate. The attendant holds out his hand. He wants the egg-shaped beads that represent your sensual sovereignty and divine femininity. And he says, hush, Inanna, the ways of the underworld are perfect. You proceed to the fifth gate. The attendant holds his hand out. He wants your gold ring, which represents power, control, material wealth. Before you could even tense up, he says, hush, Inanna, the ways of the underworld are perfect. You proceed to the sixth gate. The attendant holds his hand out. He wants the measuring rod, the lapis lazuli measuring rod. It represents rulership and justice. You clench the rod and he says, hush, Inanna, the ways of the underworld are perfect. So then there's this final gate you're approaching. It's heavy. It's loud. It creaks when it's opening. The attendant holds his hand out and he wants your royal robe. Realizing you have been stripped of all your regalia, you clench. And just like all the others, he says, hush, Inanna. The ways of the underworld are perfect. This robe represents your ego, your personality, your identity itself. Stripped naked now. You begin to walk, and as you're walking, you hear howling. You hear cries, sobbing. It sounds like anger, sounds like rage, sounds like grief, sounds like sadness, echoing everywhere off the walls, into your ears, and resonating deep in your soul. You are experiencing all of it. Also, you are not only hearing it, you are experiencing the rage, the grief, the sadness, the discontent, the resentment, the betrayal, the abandonment. And you look up high, seated in the crevice of a wall. It's a figure. It's dark, so you can't see. And suddenly a light appears, a dim light, and you can see the figure setting in the crevice of the wall. The howling is still happening. You think you're about to see something so awful, so hideous. I invite you to notice what you see. This is Aresh Kagal, your sister, your companion of darkness to the light. She's in grief for loss of her husband. She's experiencing a grief that nothing has ever soothed. And she's angry with you because she believes that you're the cause of it. You didn't know you were coming to face blame. You didn't know you were coming to face the rage of accusation. But you no longer have your regalia. You no longer have your ego. You no longer have your breastplate. You no longer have borrowed wisdom. You no longer have the ability to exercise authority. You are just you in the face of all of this chaos and pain. There's nothing to fight with. There's nothing to clinch. So you stand there and you face it. And in facing this, you find strength. At first, maybe you were afraid, but you are no longer afraid. Now you are understanding. You are now, in some energetic way, coming into an understanding of all of this turmoil and pain. Suddenly, one of the Aresh Kagal's attendants swoops down. He's flying. He grabs you by your shoulders in talons like an eagle. And as you're flying, you realize that actually what you're doing is transitioning. Somehow you have no clue what kind of transition this is, but you just know you no longer have your regalia, you no longer have your defenses, you no longer have your ego, you no longer have the name, the label, the title. Here, you are not the queen of heaven. Here, you begin to transition. And so the being hangs you on a hook jutting out from the wall. And you feel all of yourself just releasing. Whatever's left, they already took most of it. You already faced the fear. You already have taken this journey that nobody returns from. So you find a surrender. This is not the type of surrender that is powerless. This is not the type of surrender that tells a victim story. No, this is the surrender of an old self that has been cleared of every mask, that has been cleared of everything you've taken from somewhere else, and everything that has been cleared from your past, you find yourself surrendering. Those things no longer have a hold on your mind. They happened, you remember, but they no longer have a hold. As you begin to transition, you feel your form shifting. You're no longer dense and heavy. Something else is taking place. Things are washing away. Powers that those things had over you disintegrating. And just when you think that maybe this is it for me, you hear a commotion. It's Ninshaber, your attendant. You told her that if you didn't come back after 3 days and 3 nights to come for you, and she shows up. Ninshaber is you. Ereshkigal is you. Inanna is you. And you hear your friend and you open your eyes and life begins to breathe back into your body. But this time it's a different kind of life. You feel lighter. You feel more translucent, transparent. You feel like you are the energy that you are, without the labels, without the ideas, without the body, without the pain. You lighter. And Ninshaber can fly, so she picked you up in the same way that the talents of Ereshkigal's attendant did. And while she's flying you to safety, nobody's trying to stop it. There's nobody you're running from. And she brought some bread with her. And so as she's flying with you in her talons, with her hands, she's putting bread in your mouth and you're eating. And your body is recognizing sustenance again. And she has brought milk for you and she gives you that. And your body begins to come alive. And as you fly up, up, up through the 7th gate, you reclaim your robe, and your robe just appears on you. You don't have to grab it and put it on. It's there. Except now it's more like part of your body. And through the 6th gate, your measuring rod is in your hand now, except that it's not just the rod, it is your hand. The power of it is you. And you fly through the 5th gate and you have now your gold ring of power and material wealth. It is part of you. And you fly through the 4th gate and your egg-shaped beads now are a part of you. They're part of your body. They're not even separate. And you fly through the 3rd gate, up, up, up. Your breastplate reattaches, but this time it's not hard. It's actually soft and sensual. And you fly through the 2nd gate and you get your beads around your throat again, but this time you notice that your throat chakra is actually vibrating. And then you fly through the 1st great gate and you reclaim your crown, your authority, your sense of validation that used to be external, but now it's part of you. As you are returning to heaven, you feel invigorated, inspired, empowered. You're grateful that you took the journey. Even though it seemed scary at first, you're grateful that the transformation took place. You're grateful that you had opportunities to release all of the external validation and the external power and the external. Now, this is all part of you. And it no longer belongs to the gods that you stole it from or outwitted. Now, it's yours. Once you reach a certain height in the heavens, there's this beautiful golden light. Your attendant drops you on a cloud. And as you sit, You begin to grow bigger, stronger, but not this kind of external power, warrior strength. It's more energetic strength. You realize you are an energetic being. You are whole and integrated. You have faced your grief. You have faced the darkness. And not only that, you have allowed it to transform you into something even more beautiful. And so now you stand as not only the queen of heaven and earth, but also the integrated queen of the underworld. There's no more fear. There's no more avoiding. As you sit, you take a deep inhale, sigh, exhale. Find yourself walking back to your elevator. The elevator is within you. You walk in and the doors whiz close. You don't remember what happened per se in memory. You feel that it happened. You feel that it happened. You feel your regalia that was once outside of you, now part of you. The elevator begins to go up, 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 rising at the center of your being from the root to the sacral, to the solar plexus, to the heart, to the throat, to the third eye, to the crown. The doors open. You step out of the elevator and you realize you're so glad to be back home. Give thanks now for your underworld journey. Give thanks now for the bravery of the Inana that is you to face things that are hard, difficult, that threaten to take the very air that you breathe. They threaten to take away your authority and take away your sense of identity and take away your protection. And we give thanks for all of these things that have threatened to do it, but we prevail. We give thanks for the parts of us that were mourning and may still be in some ways. We can face the underworld over and over and over again and rise over and over and over again. We give thanks for Ninja Bird, the people who come to assist, spirit guides, spirit friends, family. We even give thanks for the attendants that required that we strip. Those are the situations that really required that we become a different version of ourselves. Without mom, without dad, without sister, brother, friend, without the validation of any group. We give thanks. Take a deep inhale. Sigh, exhale. Ah! It's so good to be home. I invite you to open your eyes. And if you don't want to open right away, don't. You can squint your eyes and wiggle your fingers and your toes, maybe roll your neck. Bring yourself back into this present state, this present awareness. And give yourself a hug. Just embrace yourself. Feel the warmth of your own palms on your skin and the pressure of your own hands. Take a deep inhale and sense gratitude for yourself, not for your journey, not for the things, not for the people, for yourself. I'm so grateful for you. This is the meaningfulness that we all have desired. Deep self-regard. As you release your hug, just shake your arms, shake your neck, puff your cheeks, whatever you have to do to release any residual tension. And I end our visit with the dark feminine. We give thanks for opportunities to grow and to know ourselves all the more. Ashe.